You want to know how you got here? Don't worry, kid. You'll remember soon enough. Just stay put. Come on, stop bothering me. I got a job to do. What? You want me to tell you how I got here? Fine. If you'll stop bothering me, I'll tell you, but let's make this fast. We're on a tight schedule. So I was a snot-nosed kid. Just like you. No offense. Anyway, I was 7, I think. Christmas Eve. I'm so hyped. Just like any kid would be. I can't wait for Christmas Day so I can see what the jolly old fat man brought me. Boy, those are the days. Anyway, my little brother and I tried to stay up so that we could see Santa. We were gonna stay in the living room behind the couch, but my mom told us that Santa won't come if he knows you're waiting. And there was no chance that she let her 2 babies lay on the cold hard ground when there are 2 perfectly good beds in their room. Now, even I knew her game. No kid could stay awake in a warm, cozy bed on a chilly night, especially if they have warm milk inside them, just like me and my little brother did. And you know what? She was right. Before the clock hit 8 o'clock, my little brother was out like a light. I figured that I'd brag to him about how I got to meet Santa, and he didn't in the morning, so I didn't even wake him. I know, real dick move, but I was a kid, what'd you expect? But the whole plan didn't work anyway. That warm milk hit me like a brick, and I was out not long after my brother. I woke up groggy and angry at myself, and having used the bathroom real bad. I could not believe that I blew my chance to rub in my brother's face that I met Santa. Then I looked over to the clock on the dresser and I realized that it was 11:35 p.m. I could have screamed with joy, but that would have woken my brother up, and then this plan would really be for nothing. I got up to go to the bathroom, and I brought my blanket so that I could wait on Santa. I decided that it would be best if I checked to see if Santa had come, so I walked down the hall, past the bathroom, and to the living room. As I turned the corner, I froze. I looked in shock as I saw my father stuffing his face with the cookies and chugging the milk that me and my brother had made and left for Santa, all the while putting presents under the tree. He turned to grab the last cookie and finally noticed that I was standing there, frozen in my PJs. His face dropped, then he walked to me with a sullen look on his face and patted me on the shoulder and said, "You were bound to figure out sooner or later." He was gonna say more, but I ran to my room with tears in my eyes and slammed my door, forgetting completely that I had to use the bathroom. What? Of course that's not how I got here. I'm setting the rest of the story up. Jeez, be patient. Man, you guys keep getting more annoying as the years go by. Anyway, back to what I was saying before I was rudely interrupted. It was a year later, 8 years old, and I don't believe in Santa. I thought I was a real big man on campus. In school I tell all my friends, there's no such thing. You're being such a big baby believing stuff like that. Heh, what a time. Anyway, I tell all my friends that stuff, but I could never bring myself to tell my little brother. He'd been really bummed after he'd fallen asleep, and he had vowed that he'd see Santa this time around. Spoiler alert, he fell asleep again. That night I lay there thinking how pissed he'd be at himself that he'd fallen asleep again. But I thought it'd be better if he still had his belief instead of it being crushed like mine. I moved to go to sleep when I felt my stomach rumble. With a sigh, I got up as quiet as I could, I did not wake my brother, and opened my door and walked down the hall, to go to the kitchen. As I did, I walked past the living room, and the scent of the chocolate chip cookies that my mom helped my brother make hit my nose. I looked at them with a deviant smile, seeing that my father hadn't gotten to them yet. This would teach him, I thought. I walked over on my tippy toes to the plate of cookies with a tall glass of milk next to it, and I smiled even wider. Then, I grabbed me a handful of cookies. I had no idea how my mom had made these cookies, but they were still soft, and the chocolate melted in my mouth as soon as I took a bite. I knew for a fact that I was not getting any sleep after the sugar rush that I was about to get, but I didn't care. After eating every last bite, I made the crumbs on the plate into a smiley face for my dad when he finally came down to eat the cookies. Then, I grabbed the glass of milk and I chugged the entire thing. I turned to move and go back to my room when I heard a creak that sounded like it came from the roof. I followed the sound that it made out as footsteps. They stopped at the chimney, then I heard something like 2 stomps. Then all of a sudden, the fire in the chimney went out. After seeing this, I snapped out of my shock paralysis and I ran back to the hall, hugging the wall, peeking around it so that I could see the living room. I heard shuffling, and I saw that there was dust and snow falling down the chimney. I just stood there wide-eyed as I saw a set of boots appear at the bottom of the chimney. Then a crack appeared in the opening of the chimney where you put the wood. Then it started upward, directly in the middle. The crack reached almost to the roof. Then the chimney swung open, separating like two halves like the doors of a western saloon. I stared, eyes wider than I thought possible, as Santa Claus himself, in a spotless red suit, just like you'd see the big man in cartoons, walked out of my chimney. It was so red it was practically glowing, and it didn't have a speck of dust or soot, as if he didn't just slide down a chimney. Then he started to walk around the room, and I realized how big he was. He was taller than the Christmas tree, and his head almost touched the ceiling. His stomach was massive. It almost looked as if he had an exercise ball under his suit, but by the way it slumped, it made me know that that belly was real. It was almost as big as the large red bag that he had slung over his shoulder that had the shapes of boxes of all different sizes. Then there was his long beard that was white as snow, resting lightly on top of his large belly that completed his look. He moved around the room with a jolly bounce in his step, all the while he softly sang the words to Happy Holiday, until he moved to the empty plate in front of the tree. Then he froze, staring at it with a flat look on his face. Then I heard him whisper something that I almost couldn't make out. "Is this supposed to be funny?" Then he said it louder. "Is this supposed to be funny?" Then faster than I would expect a big man like him to be able to move, he spun and looked directly at me and said with a horrifying stare on his face, "Julian Spencer Whitaker, is this supposed to be funny?" The sense of wonder that I felt after I realized that Santa was real fell to the floor as gigantic old Saint Nick thumped across the floor with anger strewn across his face. He stood there in front of me and dropped the giant sack on the ground with a loud thump and said, "Don't move." And with that, all the will that had to run away faded, and it just stood there staring at this big man, while in the back of my mind I could still feel a part of myself shouting, "Run." I stood there frozen, staring at the robust man as he opened his bright red velvet sack and started to dig around inside of it. All the while he stared at me. Half an eternity later he yanked out a doll. Now, this was no normal doll. It was huge. It was about as tall as I was. Then I realized that this doll looked almost exactly like me, but only if I was a giant wooden ventriloquist dummy. It even had on the exact same clothes that I was wearing. It had messy curly brown hair like I did, and even the scar on my chin that I had from falling off of my bike that one time. The only thing that was off was a winding key, like what you see on old music boxes, that was sticking out of its neck. Santa then grabbed the doll by the head and then started to wind the key, still looking me in my eyes, but by now he had a large smile spread across his face that was only enhanced by his white beard. After 6 minutes of winding, he stopped, giving a great huff. Then, the doll twitched. Then it started to shake. Then stopped. I stared as the doll's eyes shot open and it started to raise its arms. Then it started to inspect them. As it did, the joints that were so much like a doll started to connect, and the ventriloquist dummy mouth started to shape as the lines on the side of it faded away and they were joined together and they were replaced with human lips. Seconds later I stood there, petrified, staring at this perfect clone of myself. It then started to circle around me, walking stilted and jittery. Then as it made its second rotation, it started to walk smooth. It then looked me in the eyes, then it slapped me across the face with a loud smack. "Ah! What the hell?" I whimpered. Then I listened in horror as it said, "Ah! What the hell? Ah! What the hell? Ah! What the hell?" Then Santa finally spoke. At this point I had almost completely forgotten that he was there. "Ah, looks like you can handle the rest from here," he said. Then he looked at me. "Let's go," he sneered. Then he grabbed me and picked me up off the ground with one hand and hovered me over the giant red sack, and then he dropped me inside. It felt like I was falling for days as I bounced and tumbled off of sharp presents, hitting every part of my body. Then, I hit the bottom. I was terrified and cold at the bottom of that bag. There was nothing but presents. The thought of opening some of them came across my mind. I don't know why. But when I went to tear into one, the tag that was on it said, "To Billy. From Look Up." When I did, I saw that the top of the sack was open, and old Saint Nick was staring down at me, staring directly into my eyes glowing a bright, terrifying red. So I figured that I'd just sit in the bag and wait for whatever was going to happen to me. I don't know how long I was in that bag, and it don't really matter. But every now and then, I'd hear someone screaming and then a thud as they were dropped in. By the time the sound was done, there were so many people in there with me that I had lost count. No one talked while we were down there. It was just people, scattered around in different areas or just walking around aimlessly. Then everything shook, and there was a rumble, as it felt as if the sack was dropped, then the world turned upside down. And then everyone fell out of the opening. We were dumped into a big white room with bright lights. Someone with a high-pitched voice came over a speaker that I had no idea where it was and said,
"Now everyone stay calm. Remember, loss is normal. Sit back, relax, and listen to some holiday classics."
Then, the song Let It Snow started to play. And with that, vents on the walls opened, and white gas started to be pumped into the room. And everyone, every man, every woman, every boy and girl in that room started to scream. It was blood-curdling. I looked around to see that the people who the gas had hit first, they were changing. Their ears were being stretched and pulled into sharp points. Their noses were being elongated. Their arms and legs started to compress and collapse as they were being shrunk before their torso could even catch up with them. They started to collapse under their own weight that their newfound limbs could not even hold up. And then the gas finally got to me. I let out a scream all my own. I thought that my vocal cords would tear because of how horrid the screech was. The pain was like nothing that I'd ever experienced. But I guess that's what happens when you shrink the human body to a size it's not supposed to be after it exits the womb. You notice why he needs so many of us, right? Because we're so small. Don't know why he does it that way, but that's how it is. Anyway, that's how I got here. And that's how it happened.
Hey, Peppermint! How long is it gonna take you to fix that vent?
Hold on! Jeez, Evergreen. I was just talking to one of the kids.
You know we're not supposed to do that until after. Come on, kiddo! Hurry up and get out of there!
I'm coming. And do you have to do the voice? You know he only wants us to do it when he's around, right? I know. Just close the door. Man, I got a good feeling about this batch. So what song you want me to play? How about Rocking Around the Christmas Tree? And turn up loud this time. I can tell that these guys are screamers. Hello once again. Thank you for listening to my Christmas creepypasta, written by me, Onyx the Madman. If you enjoyed the narration, feel free to leave a like and hit that subscribe button. It'll help more than you know. And it'd be a nice Christmas present for a small content creator. Anyway, thank you once again for listening to my story. I hope you've enjoyed it. All of my important links are in the description down below. And once again, I hope that you've enjoyed. And come back next time for another story from a world much like your own. Happy holidays.